How dare you touch my pot of soup? How dare you use your filthy hands to touch my pot of soup?
Auntie, please! I have not eaten anything since yesterday.
How many food did your dead mother give to you to eat before she died?
The wind does not blow for nothing. It always carries the scent of what is coming. You see, when a person decides to plant thorns in another person's garden, they forget that they will one day have to walk through that same garden with bare feet. The world is a place of deep mysteries, where the person you call sister might be the same person sharpening a knife behind her back. This is the story of Adesuwa. Before we reveal what happens next, a warm welcome to African Cinematic Tales. We are so happy to have you in our storytelling circle today. If you are enjoying this tale, please like this video and share it. And quickly, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? Don't forget to subscribe, because every week, we bring you the untold stories of our ancestors that still speak to us today, no matter where we live. Now, let the story begin. Our people say that the moon has no reason to be jealous of the sun, because they both have their time to shine in the sky. But in a certain family, the moon wanted to swallow the sun whole. There were two sisters born of the same womb, but with hearts as different as day and night. The first was Yemi. Yemi was a woman whose smile could make the flowers bloom even in the dry season. She moved far away to the land of Ghana, where she married a man who treated her like a queen. Together, they had a daughter named Adesuwa, a child who was born with a light that no darkness could hide. But back at home, the second sister, Idowu, was watching. Idowu was like a dry well. No matter how much rain fell into her, she was never satisfied. She looked at the reports of Yemi's beautiful life in Ghana and felt a bitterness that was stronger than gall. She didn't want her own success, she only wanted Yemi to fail. You must understand that a heart filled with envy is a house without a roof. It invites every evil spirit to come inside and take a seat. The disaster began in silence. It started with a secret visit to a dark place, where Idowu asked for a way to steal what did not belong to her. Soon after, the news came from Ghana. Adesuwa's father had fallen into a deep sleep and never woke up. The pillar of the house was gone. Not long after, Yemi herself began to feel a strange fire in her bones. Her strength was leaving her like water leaking from a cracked pot. With her last breath of hope, Yemi gathered her jewelry and the little gold her husband left behind. She took her daughter, Adesuwa, by the hand and crossed the border back to Nigeria. She said, "My sister Idowu will keep us safe." She did not know that she was bringing a lamb to a wolf that had been fasting for 7 years. When they arrived, Idowu welcomed them with a hug that felt like silk, but her eyes were already counting the gold in Yemi's bag. She looked at the beautiful Adesuwa and she smiled a smile that was colder than a grave. The trap was set, and the innocents were already walking into the mouth of the shadows. The elders say that a person who welcomes you with a wide smile might be the same person who has already dug a hole for your feet in the backyard. It is a terrible thing when the house that is supposed to be your shelter becomes your prison. For young Adesuwa, the journey from the beautiful life in Ghana to the house of her Auntie Idowu was like a bird falling from the sky into a nest of scorpions. Not long after they arrived, the sickness that followed Yemi from Ghana became a heavy weight. Yemi lay on a thin mat, her body becoming as small as a child's, while her sister Idowu watched her with eyes that were as dry as a desert. Idowu did not call a doctor, she did not boil any herbs. Instead, she spent her night searching through Yemi's bags, taking the gold jewelry and the money that was meant for Adesuwa's future. One rainy midnight, without a sound, Yemi's breath left her. She died in the dark, leaving her only daughter in the hands of a woman who had no soul. From that day, the sun stopped shining for Adesuwa. The little girl who once wore the finest clothes in Ghana was turned into a slave in her own family house. Idowu took everything. She took the shoes, she took the dresses, and she even took the joy from Adesuwa's face. Our people say that when a mother is gone, the child's back is open to the whip of the world. For many years, Adesuwa lived in the kitchen. Her bed was a ragged sack on the floor, and her food was the leftovers that even the dogs refused to touch. While Idowu's own children were sent to the best schools, wearing starch uniforms, Adesuwa was sent to the forest to fetch wood and to the stream to carry water until her neck felt like it would snap. Idowu's heart was like a locked room. She hated Adesuwa because the girl's beauty refused to fade, even in the middle of the ashes and the smoke. The wickedness reached a boiling point on a Tuesday that the village will never forget. Adesuwa was in the kitchen, her hands black with charcoal, trying to cook for a woman who never said thank you. Idowu walked in, her face twisted like a piece of burnt wood. She looked at Adesuwa and saw the ghost of her sister Yemi in the girl's eyes, and it made her blood boil with a fresh jealousy. "You lazy girl!" Idowu screamed, her voice shaking the pots on the shelf. "You think because you have a pretty face, you can just sit here and eat my food for free? Your mother was a failure, and she died like a dog, leaving you here to be a burden on my life." Adesuwa felt a sharp pain in her chest, not from a blow, but from the insult to her dead mother. She looked up, her eyes filled with tears that had been stored for years. "Auntie, please," she whispered, "do not talk about my mother. She trusted you." But Idowu was possessed by a spirit of disaster. She picked up a wooden spoon and pointed it at the girl's face. "Trust. She was a witch who brought her bad luck into my house. If you love her so much, why don't you go to the cemetery and join her? Go to your mother's grave and ask her for food, because from today, you are no longer a part of this house." It was at that moment that the air in the kitchen turned cold. The fire in the stove flared up with a blue flame, and a sudden wind blew the back door open. Idowu felt a heavy, invisible hand slap her across the face so hard that she fell into the pile of firewood. She looked around, but nobody was there except the trembling Adesuwa. "Witch! Witch!" Idowu began to scream, her voice filled with a demonic terror. "You have called your mother from the grave to kill me. Get out. Get out of my house before I burn you alive." She grabbed Adesuwa's small bundle of rags and threw them into the dirt outside. The neighbors gathered, whispering as they watched the girl who once came from Ghana being chased into the street like a common thief. Adesuwa stood there, barefoot and broken, as the gates of the only home she knew were slammed in her face. But as the elders say, when a man closes a wooden door against you, the heavens open a golden gate. The elders say that the road to the city is wide, but for a person with no one to call father or mother, that road is filled with many traps. Adesuwa arrived in the big city with nothing but the dust on her feet and the tears in her heart. She walked through the noisy markets and the busy streets where everyone was in a hurry, and nobody stopped to ask why a beautiful girl was wearing rags and sleeping on a piece of cardboard under the bridge. But listen to me carefully. Adesuwa was not as alone as she thought. Walking right beside her, with a face full of sorrow that no human eye could see, was the spirit of Yemi. The love of a mother does not end at the grave, it follows the child into the fire. Yemi's ghost was there, her hands reaching out to touch her daughter's shoulder, trying to wipe the sweat from Adesuwa's brow. But her hands passed through her daughter like smoke. When the cold wind blew at night under the bridge, Yemi would try to spread her wrapper over Adesuwa to keep her warm, but the wind would only blow harder. It was a tragedy that the ears of the living could not hear. When Adesuwa, blinded by hunger and tears, tried to cross the dangerous highway where the big lorries fly like birds of death, Yemi would scream with a voice that shook the spirit world. "Adesuwa! My daughter, look out! A motor is coming. Move back." But Adesuwa heard nothing but the honking of horns. She would step into the road, almost losing her life, while her mother's ghost stood on the pavement, wringing her hands and begging the strangers passing by for help. Yemi would pull at the clothes of the rich men and the market women, crying out, "Please! Look at my child. She is hungry. Someone help her." But the people only felt a small, strange chill as they walked past, never knowing they had just brushed against the heart of a mother's ghost. The days turned into weeks of pure hunger. Adesuwa had to swallow her pride. She, who was once the daughter of a king in Ghana, began to beg for coins at the traffic lights. She would hold out her hand, her voice small and trembling, asking for even 10 naira to buy a piece of bread. Many people rolled up their windows, some even insulted her, telling her to go and find work. They did not see the ghost of Yemi standing behind her daughter, weeping and pointing at the scars on Adesuwa's hands. Finally, after many days of sleeping in the rain, a small miracle happened. A woman selling bread saw the way Adesuwa was looking at the floor, and she dropped a small bundle of money, not much, just enough to buy 2 bags of sachet water. Adesuwa did not use that money to buy food for her stomach. No. She remembered the strength of her mother. She went to the cold room and bought her first pure water bags. She put the heavy bowl on her head, and with feet that were covered in blisters, she entered the hot sun to start her hustle. As she walked between the cars, shouting, "Buy your pure water," Yemi's ghost walked right behind her, her ghostly hands helping to balance the heavy bowl on Adesuwa's head. The mother was still serving the daughter, even from the land of the silent. They did not know that the sun was about to set on their suffering, and the man who would change everything was already stuck in the traffic jam just a few miles away. The elders say that the same sun that melts the wax is the same sun that hardens the clay. For months, Adesuwa lived under that sun, her skin turning dark and her voice becoming hoarse from calling out to drivers who did not even look at her face. But on a Friday afternoon, when the heat was so heavy it felt like the earth was breathing fire, the hand of destiny moved. The traffic was a disaster. Thousands of cars stood still, stretching like a long metal snake under the Lagos sun. In the middle of this chaos sat a black SUV, a car that smelled of wealth and expensive leather. Inside was Chief Williams. He was a man who had all the money in the world, but at that moment, money was useless. Suddenly, his breath became short. His heart began to race like a trapped bird, and his body started to shake with a violent sickness. He reached for his water, but the bottle was empty. He tried to call his driver, but his voice was trapped in his throat. He was a billionaire dying in the middle of 1 million people, yet he was all alone. Adesuwa was passing by, her bowl of pure water almost empty. Most sellers had moved on to find shade, but a strange feeling, a cold breeze in the middle of the heat, pushed her toward the black car. It was the hand of Yemi's ghost, guiding her daughter's steps to the window of the dying man. Adesuwa looked through the tinted glass and saw Chief Williams gasping for air. She didn't wait for him to ask. She didn't think about the money. She dropped her bowl, tore open 2 sachets of water, and pounded on the door. When the driver opened it, Adesuwa rushed in. She lifted the chief's head, pouring the cool water into his mouth and washing his face with the rest. Yemi's ghost stood right there in the back seat, her hands placed over Adesuwa's hands, adding a heavenly healing to the water. Slowly, the chief's shaking stopped. His eyes cleared. He looked at the girl in rags who had just saved his life, and then his eyes fell on a small locket around her neck, a locket that had belonged to Yemi. His heart skipped a beat. He remembered that locket. He remembered his business partner in Ghana who had died years ago. "Child," the chief whispered, his voice trembling. "Who are you? Where did you get this?" When Adesuwa told him her story, the story of the pure water seller who was once a princess in Ghana, Chief Williams wept. He didn't just give her money, he opened the door of the car and said, "Your days of walking in the dust are over. Your father was my brother in spirit, and today, his blood has saved my life." As the SUV began to move out of the traffic, carrying Adesuwa away from the bridge and the rags forever, a strange silence fell over the noisy street. Yemi's ghost stood on the pavement, watching the car disappear into the distance. For the first time in many years, the sorrow left her ghostly face. She saw her daughter sitting on soft leather, protected by a powerful man. She saw that the stolen destiny was being returned. Yemi let out a long, beautiful sigh, a sound like the first rain after a long drought. She looked at her hands and saw they were no longer grey, but glowing with a white light. She had finished her work. She had been the shield, and now the shield was no longer needed. With a smile that lit up the shadows under the bridge, she turned away from the world of the living. She walked slowly back toward the quiet peace of her rest, her heart full of the happiness only a mother can know, knowing that her Adesuwa was finally home. The elders say that the person who is carrying a heavy load in the morning should not be mocked, for you do not know the type of car they will be driving in the evening. Time is a mysterious river. It can wash away a palace and it can turn a desert into a forest. 7 years had passed since the day the black SUV carried Adesuwa away from the traffic jam. 7 years of healing, 7 years of learning, and 7 years of the heavens preparing a seat for the daughter of Yemi. Back in the village, the house of Idowu had become a place of darkness. You see, when you build a house with stolen gold, the foundation is made of sand. After Adesuwa was driven out, the stolen luck that Idowu thought she had captured began to dry up. Her businesses failed one by one. Her children, whom she had pampered with Yemi's money, turned against her and left her alone. The skin that was once smooth with the oil of greed became wrinkled and grey. Idowu was now a beggar in the very village where she once walked like a queen. She sat by the roadside, her clothes in tatters, hoping that a stranger would drop a small coin into her rusty bowl. But one afternoon, the quiet of the village was shattered by a sound that made the birds fly from the trees. It was the sound of heavy engines, black, shining cars with tinted windows, driving in a long line like a royal funeral, but this was not for death, this was for life. The dust rose in the air, coating the rags of the beggars, including Idowu, who struggled to her feet to see whose big man was visiting. The convoy stopped right in front of the old, crumbling family house. A man in a suit stepped out and opened the door of the middle car. Out stepped a woman whose beauty made the sun look dim. She was dressed in the finest lace, with gold from Ghana shining on her neck and her wrist. It was Adesuwa. Idowu did not recognize her. She only saw a big woman and ran toward the car, her hands stretched out, her voice trembling with hunger. "Please, my daughter," Idowu begged, not looking at the woman's face. "Please, find something for a poor old woman. I have not eaten since yesterday. May God bless your pocket." Adesuwa stood still. She looked at the woman who had called her a witch. She looked at the woman who had told her to go to her mother's grave for food. The villagers gathered, whispering, wondering why this rich woman was staring so hard at the village beggar. Slowly, Adesuwa reached into her expensive bag. She didn't pull out money. She pulled out a small, sealed sachet of pure water. She held it out to Idowu. "Auntie," Adesuwa said, her voice as calm as a deep lake. "Do you remember me? You told me that my mother's ghost was a witch. You told me that I would never be more than a slave. Look at me well. I am the girl you threw into the street with nothing but a bowl of water on my head." The bowl fell from Idowu's hand. She began to shake, her eyes wide with a terror that was worse than death. She tried to run, but her legs had no strength. She fell into the dirt, weeping and hitting her head, crying for mercy. "Adesuwa. It was the devil. I didn't know. Please, do not kill me." Adesuwa looked at her with pity, not anger. "I will not kill you, auntie. My mother, Yemi, has already found her rest, and she did not teach me to be a murderer. I have bought this house, and the land around it. You will live in the small boys' quarters, and every day, you will be given food and water. But you will never again taste the gold that you stole. You will live to see my glory, and that shall be your punishment." The elders say that the world is like a big mirror. If you frown at it, it will frown back at you, but if you smile through your tears, the sun will eventually find your face. This story of Adesuwa is not just a tale of a girl who sold water, it is a warning to every soul that thinks they can bury the truth in the dark. You must understand that no matter how deep you dig a hole to hide your wickedness, the grass that grows on top of that hole will one day whisper your secret to the wind. Look at Idowu. She thought that by stealing her sister's gold and poisoning her sister's life, she had secured her own future. But she forgot that stolen wealth is like a charcoal fire carried in a nylon bag. It will eventually burn the hands of the one who carries it. You cannot build a mansion of joy on a foundation of another person's tears. If you are a person who treats orphans like footmats, or if you are a relative who has turned the children of your late siblings into slaves, let the shame of Idowu be a mirror for you today. The heavens do not sleep, and the cry of an innocent child is the loudest sound in the ears of the Creator. And to you who are struggling today, you who feel like Adesuwa, carrying a heavy bowl of pure water under the heat of life, listen to me carefully. The dust on your feet does not define the crown on your head. People may mock your rags, they may close their car windows when you approach, and they may even call you a failure because they cannot see the spirit that walks beside you. But remember this, the same water that people buy for 10 naira to quench their thirst can be the same water that opens the gates of your palace. Never let the bitterness of your Auntie Idowu turn your heart into stone. Keep your hands clean, for clean hands are the only hands that can hold a golden trophy. Adesuwa did not win because she was lucky, she won because even when she was begging for bread, she refused to steal. She won because even when she was treated like a dog, she kept the heart of a queen. The ghost of her mother, Yemi, could only find rest because her daughter remained pure. Let this story remind you that life is a circle. The person you push into the mud today might be the same person who will own the land you are standing on tomorrow. Be careful how you treat the water sellers and the beggars on your path, for some of them are carrying a glory that is waiting for the right traffic jam to manifest. Wealth can vanish, beauty can fade, but a heart of gold is a currency that never loses its value. May the God of Adesuwa locate you in your place of struggle, and may the spirit of your ancestors never rest until your stolen destiny is returned to your hands. Thank you for following the story of Adesuwa on African Cinematic Tales. If you believe that no man can stop your destiny, please like this video and comment, "My glory must shine." Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story of justice. Share this video to encourage someone who is struggling today. Thanks for watching, and may your own story be filled with light. Stay blessed, and we will see you again in our next episode.